Hi everyone, it's Miriam with a Y. My awesomely talented friends and YouTube artists, Sharon Lindley and Tammy Anderson and I, are at it again. We've done another three-way collaboration where we've all made a piece with a similar theme. This time around, Tammy got to choose the theme and the parameters. Much to my delight, she chose butterflies. I about squealed like a schoolgirl when I found out, because as many of you know, I'm kind of a nut for butterflies. Tammy's rules were that we could use whatever we like, resin, acrylic, whatever, and that we could depict full butterflies or just their wings. The only must is that we have to have some form of texture in the piece. So, since I've had a fascination with what are known as three-dimensional mixed media pieces, I'm going to attempt my first one in that genre. I think I'm going to need a few things. I'll explain as I use everything. I am both excited and crazy nervous. It's one of those, I know what I want it to be, and hopefully we can get there. I have no idea what Tammy or Sharon made, but I'm certain both made gorgeous pieces. They always do. So make sure to check out their videos too. I will put links for both in the description box below. Okay, let's do this thing or die trying. For this piece, I'm working on an 11 by 14 inch canvas panel. My first step is to get some sort of background started. I'm going to begin with these DecoArt decoupage papers. I know I want a patina looking background with a touch of old world, wrinkled kind of thing peeking through. I know that may not make a lot of sense yet, but it's why I picked this paper. I hope it'll make sense later, and I hope it'll work too. I start out by ripping up the map picture into small pieces, and I proceed to glue the pieces down using matte decoupage glue. I ended up using 2 of these maps in order to get this all covered. I made sure to fold the paper to the back in order to give the edges the same look as the overall piece. Using this silicone brush to spread the glue and to sort of spread and squeegee the paper really made this job a lot easier. And cleanup is going to be easier too because I won't have a brush to wash out. The glue will just peel off the silicone brush when I'm done. I overlap pieces to begin building the first layer of texture. I don't know how much of this will end up really showing, but I try to vary where I put darker parts of the paper so I don't like bunch it all up in one area and then all the light in another area. I kind of try to spread it around. And then when I finish making my puzzle, I check to make sure the back is okay, and then I let this dry completely. Now, because Tammy wanted us to use texture, I'm going for broke. I pulled out a couple of stencils, a simple pebble-looking pattern, and some flowers. And then, of course, some texture paste to use with the stencils. My plan here is to add random patches around the periphery to add interest, the required texture, and a bit of a border too. Now, I have to be careful to let some of the patches dry before I go in to add new ones so as not to disturb the first patches I put down. While I wait for everything to dry, I add a little texture paste to the center, just a touch, more for fun than anything else. And then I leave this alone for a good hour or so to dry. Now I want to add color, but before I can do that, I need to lighten this up. So I dry brush some gesso over the entire piece. Now I could have let this air dry, but since it was such a minimal layer, I just sped things up with my heat gun so that I could continue working pretty quickly. Now I had a surface ready for color. I'm a bit of a copper freak, and I love the patina of copper, so I pulled out DecoArt Americana Sea Breeze and Desert Turquoise, along with some glazing medium, in order to mimic the patina of copper. The glazing medium is going to thin the paint so that it goes on with a bit of a translucent quality. It's better than just adding water to the paint. Now you see me simply brushing on the Sea Breeze pretty much all over, and then I use the Desert Turquoise to sort of darken up the periphery. I really like how this is looking, but then I get a kooky idea and I pull out a really light lavender color, Americana Light Orchid. I decided I wanted a hint of purple because I think it's going to let the butterflies that I'm planning pop all the more. So I glaze some of that in the middle mostly, and I add little touches here and there. Next was the color that I was hoping would really give this an old, worn, aged look. So I pulled out burnt umber. I made a glaze and I started to apply it. At first I was scared. No, I wasn't scared. I was panicked. I was thinking, oh my gosh, I'm messing this up. I was thinking, okay, is this a little too crazy? I don't know, but I was committed, so I kept going. And then I actually started to really like it. It started to remind me of an old piece of metal, like, you know, something you'd see that was left out and had started to rust and the paint was chipping. I just loved it. It's exactly what I'd pictured in my head. And I also liked that you could see hints of the map here and there. And the added grungy kind of look made the texture pop even more, I think. Feeling confident that I'd now satisfied Tammy's rule, I took out a satin varnish and I sealed this. Now to make the butterflies. For these, I'm drawing on Yupo paper. I chose a plastic paper because I'll be pouring resin on these later. My first step was to sketch out my butterflies. Here I'm working on a painted lady. My first plan was to color the butterflies with regular Posca markers. I chose a couple of oranges for the painted lady. And then I added white highlights with a Faber-Castell white Pitt pen. The Pitt pens are India ink, so the white here is nice and opaque, even on black. But then, when I started working on the next butterfly, I had another idea for adding color. I'm drawing an Adonis butterfly now, or sometimes this is a common blue. Since I didn't have a blue light enough for this butterfly, I thought about spreading the ink or paint, really, from the marker with a paintbrush. And it worked like a charm. The best part of this is that this is a glitter marker. So when I spread out the paint this way, it gave it a wonderful, subtle sheen. I was super excited when I realized this and decided to do it to all my butterflies. I then wondered if I'd be able to blend colors if I put them down at the same time and then brush them out. That worked too. So I started the base for what's going to end up being a blue morpho-esque butterfly later. My next beauty is one of my all-time favorite butterflies, the peacock. This is the most elaborate drawing I did for this piece. It definitely took the longest because there are so many colors involved. Like the others, it starts out with a sketch. This time I did the sketch in red pencil. I did my new glitter pen paintbrush thing for the red, but had to add lots of non-glitter details here and there because I was limited in the glitter colors that I had. Plus, I think it would have been a little too over the top if every single color was glitter anyway. To liven up the red, I brushed over it with a red Copic alcohol marker. I finished up some more details with various markers, and then it was time to cut this one out. For my last butterfly, I chose a green bird wing. I like how dramatic they look. Again, I didn't have a green glitter marker, so I started out with a light aqua blue for the glitter aspect, and then I went over it with a Copic marker at first. But then off camera, I wiped it all off and I blended the aqua Posca marker, the one that has glitter, with a yellow no glitter Posca marker, and that worked even better. I got a better green that way. Then the last step was to put in all the black details. Off camera, I also finished my morpho-like butterfly. You can see it cut out in the upper corner. Now with my butterflies all done, it was time for their resin coat. For the smaller ones, what I did was put pieces of double stick foam tape on their back, and then I attached them to plastic cards, you know, the kind that you get in the mail, like the fake credit cards. I did that to keep the butterflies nice and flat, and also lift it up off the surface so that when I'm doming resin, if resin falls over the side, the butterflies don't end up sitting in a pool of resin, because that would be really bad. For the larger ones, I just taped popsicle sticks on their backs, both to raise them up off the surface and also to keep them nice and flat. Then I mixed up my resin and quickly added it to dome each butterfly. As you saw at the beginning when I laid out my materials and supplies, I chose Stone Coat Quick Coat for this as my resin. Now I did that because it sets up so rapidly, but I have to tell you, if you are not familiar with resin, like you're not, used to using it, Quick Coat is not a resin for beginners. This resin requires you to move very, very quickly. I literally had about 10 minutes to get all of these coated. When I first started working with resin, this resin would have made me cry. I would have been like, this is a nightmare. I'm never using this again. I'm never doing resin ever again. But that's not what, a lot of resins you have 45 minutes or more to work. So this one is just special. Now, when the butterflies were all coated, I torched for bubbles and then let them cure. And then in about 3 or 4 hours, they were ready to be handled. That is the beauty of this particular resin and why I used it. Oh, and to give you an idea of the rush to work with this resin, after only about 15 minutes, this is the resin left over in the cup. It's already like almost hard. Yeah. Super fast, this stuff. Now here are the finished butterflies. I love their subtle sparkle. I think they look as if they glow. Don't you think? It's just so pretty. They're just so pretty. I think the green one in particular glows. I love how using the Posca markers led to this. I will definitely have to do this again on something else. Okay, now for the fun last step for this project, attaching our butterflies. I chose good old hot glue for that. I could have gone with a 5-minute epoxy too, but this was so easy. And with that, we're done. Let's take a close-up view of everything. I am tickled pink with this. I love the butterflies. I kind of want to make a bunch now and put them all over my house. You know, that might be fun, actually. I might actually do that. I think these could make great pins or barrettes or ornaments, jewelry. Lots of possibilities. Thank you, Tammy, for suggesting this challenge. I had a blast. I really enjoyed doing the mixed media part, and I kind of see myself doing more of that. I'm really super curious as to whether or not you guys would be interested in seeing more of that kind of work too. I cannot wait to see what Tammy and Sharon made. I know that what they made will be fabulous. Remember everyone, links for their videos are in the description box, so make sure to check those out and leave some love in their comments when you're over there. And I'd love to hear from you too. Tell me what you'll want to make after seeing these videos. Thank you for hanging out, for all that you do to help my channel with contributions and using my Amazon links. I hope you have an awesome weekend and let your creative nature shine. See you soon. Bye now.